waiting for a few more people to join us. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the webinar. This webinar is Building a Team, Assessing Your School's Wellness Environment, and Developing an Action Plan, and it's brought to you today by Action for Healthy Kids. My name is Carol Muller, and I am going to go over some of the logistics today and introduce our presenters. We have two presenters today. We have Heidi Knobloch. She is Action for Healthy Kids Illinois State Coordinator. And we have Denise Marquez. She is Action for Healthy Kids Parent Advocate Project Coordinator in Colorado. So let's go ahead and review some logistics before we get started. Once you're linked in, you'll see a control panel, and that is usually on the right side of your screen. You can use your telephone or your speakers to listen to the presentation, and you can select that option in your control panel. But everybody will be muted today to avoid static and any background interference. There is a dialog box at the bottom of the control panel. You can type questions into that box as we're going along, and we'll try to get them answered later in the presentation or via email later if we can't get to them. This webinar is being recorded. Links to the webinar and the handouts will be sent to you 2 to 3 business days after the webinar. So let's get started. Heidi.
Great. Thank you, Carol. So before we jump into the presentation, I'd first like to give you a little bit of background about Action for Healthy Kids. So Action for Healthy Kids fights childhood obesity, undernourishment, and physical inactivity by helping schools become healthier places. We are made up of moms, dads, teachers, students, school and community leaders, as well as school wellness experts who have banded together to create healthier learning environments for our children. We believe that everyone has a part to play in ending the nation's childhood obesity epidemic, and our programs, tools, and resources are some things that help make that possible. Action for Healthy Kids was founded in 2002 by former Surgeon General David Satcher. Today, we have more than 60,000 members, and we also partner with dozens of professional associations, government agencies, and corporations at the national and local level. Our goal is to create school communities where children learn how to make healthy choices from the minute that they walk in the door to the minute that they leave at the end of the school day. So this presentation is part of the Action for Healthy Kids Parent Leadership Series. Action for Healthy Kids believes that parents play a crucial role in creating healthy school communities, and we found that school communities that include strong parent advocates are generally more effective at creating those changes which are sustainable and permanent. So we've developed this series to provide parents as well as school wellness advocates with the tools and knowledge that you'll need to make your efforts a success. So on your screen now, you'll see the topics that are covered in the series. They've been divided into 6 separate webinars, which we'll present live throughout the year, and we'll always have the latest ones archived for you to view later. Today's presentation is focused on building a wellness team in your school community, assessing your school's wellness environment, as well as developing and implementing an action plan. So today's webinar will cover several items. First, building a wellness team at your school. So we'll talk a little bit about why you should build one, how you can build one, as well as some tips for success. After you gather your team, your first step is to assess your school's wellness environment. This will help you determine what your team will work on. So we'll talk a little bit about the types of assessments that are available and how you can get started. And then finally, your team will need to develop an action plan. So we'll go over the basics of developing and implementing an action plan for a particular school wellness project. So at this point, I will turn it over to Denise, who will walk us through the first step of building a wellness team at your school. Denise?
Thank you, Heidi. First, let me start off by answering the question, what is a wellness team? In very general terms, wellness teams exist to make schools healthier. Their work may include any or all of the things listed on the slide, such as identifying concerns, developing your vision and goals, leading wellness projects, raising funds for your projects, measuring project impacts, celebrating successes, and developing resources. Wellness teams can exist at the district level, where teams work on larger scale projects that have an impact across many schools, or at the school level, where teams work on projects that have an impact just at that particular school. Parents, teachers, administrators, school staff, students, board members, and community members can all be part of a wellness team. Today, our focus is going to be on school-level teams. A wellness team can go by many names like those that you see on the slide. It can be formed as a subcommittee of your PTA or your school accountability committee, or it could be a standalone group. It can be formed as part of a comprehensive health and wellness initiative like coordinated school health, which is a systematic approach recommended by the CDC that addresses 8 different components related to school wellness. It can also be formed as part of a wellness program or framework like Fuel Up to Play 60, which was developed by the NFL and the National Dairy Council, or Game On, the Ultimate Wellness Challenge, which is a signature program from Action for Healthy Kids. Game On and Fuel Up are designed to be creative, fun, and appealing to students. Both involve nutrition and physical activity challenges that can be tailored to your own individual school's resources and commitment level. Using programs like these can sometimes make it easier to get more buy-in from the school and other parents. The Healthier U.S. School Challenge is a recognition program offered by USDA's Team Nutrition. Schools work on different initiatives related to nutrition and physical activity and are given bronze, silver, and gold achievement awards and monetary incentives when they reach different levels. A wellness team can also be an unofficial group without a special name that does health and wellness-oriented projects. Sometimes there may be opposition to the idea of a formal wellness team, but you'll find that even a couple of champions can work together to accomplish a lot. There are many benefits to working as a team as opposed to trying to do everything yourself. These include having a greater skill set. Multiple people bring a better variety of skills, interests, and ideas to the table. Also, greater credibility. People will take your work more seriously if they know a team of people is behind it. Having a team will help to spread the workload and create momentum, and when multiple people are involved, programs, policies, and practices are much more likely to be sustainable over the long term. The knowledge that you're in it together creates inspiration, motivation, and the personal connections, which really can make all the difference. So let's talk about how to get started. First, find out if any wellness-oriented groups already exist. If so, find out what they're working on and get to know the people on the team. If their work is headed in the same direction as yours, or if they have a similar focus, then go ahead and become a part of their team. But if there isn't any existing wellness group, or if their work does not mesh well with yours, then it's time to start your own team. Just make sure to communicate so that you're not duplicating your efforts. Next, identify other champions to help lead your group, help lead the committee. The champions will build on the energy, passion, and expertise of many other active contributors. And you should look for people who are creative, committed, passionate about student health. They should be great communicators and overall determined to see the challenges through. Finally, it's a good idea to develop an elevator pitch. In 30 seconds or less, be able to describe why you want to create a wellness team. This is your elevator speech. And then in 2 minutes or less, be able to describe what types of activities the team will do and what kind of time commitment will be necessary. You want people to know what they are committing to. Parents and school staff are busy and much more likely to join your efforts if they feel that the group has a focus. At this point, it's also very important that you get the principal's approval and buy-in at the highest possible level of commitment. From the research that's out there and from our experience in the field, we know that without the principal's buy-in and support, long-term sustained changes won't occur. At a minimum, he or she needs to be aware of and give his or her approval of what you're doing. And if you can get their support, meaning they truly believe in the importance of your work and will publicly support it, that's even better. The most ideal situation is that your principal becomes an active participant on the wellness team. Realize, though, that the principal's ability to participate will depend on their other commitments and workload. So take whatever you can get and go with it. Here is a resource that you can use if you need help talking to your principal in order to create a sense of urgency. The Learning Connection is a great resource from Action for Healthy Kids to help you make the connection between physical activity, healthy eating, and learning. It's an easy-to-read special report that summarizes the most recent research proving that healthy kids are better learners. The report includes materials that can be shared with your principal and other key school decision makers to increase their buy-in and support for school wellness. This information can be found on our website, and a link will be included in an email to you following today's presentation. Once you have principal support, the next step is to invite school staff, parents, and community members to join the team. Ask the principal for his or her ideas on staff people who might be interested in joining, and approach any staff with whom you have a good relationship and ask for their suggestions. Approach anyone who seems like an obvious good fit, people such as the school nurse, the health teacher, PE teachers, and school lunch personnel. And at my child's school, since many parents expressed interest in the school lunch program, I personally invited the food service director from the district, and she actually ended up becoming a regular member of our team, so it never hurts to ask. Survey your parent community. How do they perceive wellness at your school? A survey can start to educate them and garner interest in participating. And one easy way that you can do this is to send out a survey via email. SurveyMonkey is an online survey tool where you can ask up to 10 questions for free. Ask what people feel is important, and don't forget to ask if they are interested in becoming a part of your team. Also speak at a staff meeting, a PTO, PTA, or a school accountability committee meeting. Ask to be connected with the person who does communications at your school. This could be the principal, a secretary, or someone from the PTO. Is it okay to put a notice in an email blast or on the school Facebook page, in the school newsletter, or can you send home a flyer with students? Keep in mind that some people may be shy about getting involved due to cultural differences or other reasons. So give these people personal invitations to get involved, and then ask them if they will invite others. People like it when you invite them personally to do something. And try to have the team represent the diversity of your community. This will help to ensure that your projects meet the actual needs of your community instead of what you perceive the needs to be. If you live in a bilingual or multilingual community, provide translation if you can. Involve people who have a deep understanding of the culture, norms, and dynamics of your community. This will help to ensure that your projects are sensitive, relevant, and welcoming to all. Include key players, influencers in your school, and include people who can commit the time. Realize that not everyone on the team needs to be a champion. Supporters are just as important and just as necessary. They may not feel the same passion that you do about the importance of a particular project, but they bring many skills and can contribute in other ways. Also consider inviting students to participate and provide input. If you do, be clear about roles and expectations. Make sure the kids understand what they're signing up for. And consider creating more than one student position. This makes it less intimidating for the students if they know that they are in a group along with other peers. Prep the kids before meetings on the agenda and meeting procedures. They probably won't have experience in this area and will feel more comfortable if they know what to expect. One thing to note here is to always have more than one adult volunteer present if you're meeting in person with kids. And that's just a good standard to follow for youth protection whenever you're working with students. Prioritize students in your action plan. Don't involve them just for PR's sake, but make sure they're actually doing something and that they understand the importance and relevance of their assigned tasks. So we recommend that at your first meeting, you write a vision statement to help you to define your group's purpose. Start by having the group discuss a list of projects or other areas that they would like to address. Write down everyone's ideas and the whys behind them. Encourage the group to frame ideas in a positive light in terms of solutions instead of problems. At this point, don't get caught up in talking about the how. This is simply a time to brainstorm openly in order to discover the group's priorities. Then look for common themes. These themes should drive your vision statement. You can always come to the meeting prepared with sample statements and your own idea on how the vision might read, then refine it as a group. Your statement should clearly define what your school will look like if you achieve all of your goals. An example of a short and concise vision statement is shown on the slide. ABC elementary students will learn how to make healthy choices from the minute they walk in the front door to the minute they leave at the end of the school day. ABC will be recognized as the healthiest school in the state. This statement can then be used to create your goals and market your projects to your school community. Also at your first meeting, charge the group with the task of promoting the vision and the work of the wellness team throughout your school community. An important part of your team's work will be to create a sense of urgency by educating your community about the state of children's health today and linking that information to daily practices taking place around the school. They'll always need to make the connection between nutrition, physical activity, and student performance. Make sure to give them tips on how to talk about the team's efforts with others. You can share our webinar, Making the Case for School Wellness, with them, which is a great resource on why school wellness is so important. This webinar is recorded and archived on our website if you haven't already viewed it yourself. Parents, teachers, students, school leaders, and community members can make a lasting impact when we combine efforts. The key to providing children with consistent messages around health, nutrition, and physical activity is working together. We have a slideshow presentation, if you can advance to the next slide, that you can download and share with your audience. Use it to challenge your school community to share healthy food and activity at school. And again, this resource will be sent to you via an email after the presentation. Now I want to discuss some tips for successful meetings. Plan meetings at times that are convenient for the people who are interested in being on your committee. Before and after school times generally work well for teachers and students, but evening meetings may work better for people that work. So try to have meetings at regular times if you can, but realize that you may need to rotate meeting times in order to be able to include people with different schedules. Also offer childcare and healthy snacks or meals if possible. At my daughter's school, we figured out that if we hold the meetings in the gym, we can supervise the kids playing on the equipment at the same time that we're talking. Make sure that you create a welcoming environment at every meeting. Little things like greeting each person, smiling, and making eye contact can go a long way. And provide name tags so that you and others can address people by name. Offer opportunities for conversation and interaction. People will feel more invested if they've developed relationships with others and feel like their views are being heard. In my own experience, health and wellness meetings could go on for hours if we let it. So it's always a good idea to have a focused agenda, set it out in advance, and follow it. Include a start and end time for the meeting, and then be sure to start and end on time. If people feel like the meetings are a waste of time, they will stop attending. Accomplish as much as possible with emails and phone calls, but note that for some communities, email is not the most widely used method to communicate. So do what's best for your own community. And consider forming subcommittees if needed to work on different projects. Subcommittees can be a useful place to work out the specifics of a particular project, and then a brief report can be given at your general meeting. So here's a good success story to share with you that demonstrates the value of a team. At West Dell Elementary in Indiana, where students' fitness and nutrition were concerned, teachers and administrators had all of the best intentions. A school wellness policy was in place, a school health council had been established, and some teachers were offering health and wellness programs to their students. The only problem was that there was no coordination of information or efforts. So seeing this, Action for Healthy Kids volunteer Kathy Whaley decided to bring all of these efforts together by creating a wellness team using the Game On model. Kathy started by holding an informational meeting with the main purpose of gaining the interest and enthusiasm of the group. After the team was formed, they set their game plan. They determined their schedule of challenges, and they used many of Game On's free resources, which are available on the Action for Healthy Kids Game On website, to promote the different activities. The project was a great success. Between 20 and 35 kids engaged in a variety of after-school games and physical activities and received healthy snacks 2 or 3 times a week. They found that the school's separate wellness efforts came together under one cohesive program, which had a greater impact on students. And Kathy said it was a complete environmental shift for the whole building when they did Game On. They just needed guidance, and once they got that, they were off and running. Now they have a plan, and their school health advisory council members have school wellness policy goals and objectives. The students at West Dell Elementary had so much fun that they are not going to let the school drop the program. So here we want to share with you a variety of resources that cover gathering data about childhood health and obesity issues, building wellness teams, and then program information that I mentioned, such as Game On and Fuel Up to Play 60. And we will be sending these to you in an email link after the webinar. So now I'm going to turn this over to Carol to see if we have any questions specifically about wellness teams.
Thanks, Denise. A couple of questions. One just about logistics. Is the webinar recording going to be sent out after the webinar? And yes, the webinar recording, as well as what Denise just mentioned, we will send out links to a document that has all of the webinar recommendations and references, and particularly the resources in it, so you don't have to try to copy them down as you go. We'll also have a set. We have a set of handouts that go with each of the parent leadership webinars, so you'll receive those as well, and any other documents that we refer to during the course of the webinar. So, questions about wellness teams. We have a couple. First one is, my principal is not interested in us forming a wellness team, even though we've tried to get his approval. Do you have any suggestions?
Yeah, I'll
Denise
go ahead
or Heidi, I'll let either of you can take that.
I'll start off, and then Denise, if you have anything to add, please jump in. So this is a really common issue that schools have experienced, and there are several ways to go about it. But first I want to mention that this is definitely something that can be worked through, so try not to let this deter you if this is the situation at your own school. So the first thing that I will say is, in my experience, sometimes it takes several interactions with principals to get them on board. So I recommend a couple of things. One is to use that Learning Connection resource that Denise shared a little bit earlier. This is something you can find on our website, and it will be shared with you after the presentation. And as part of that resource at the very end, there's actually a letter to administrators that explicitly talks about the connection between academic achievement and health and wellness. So it's a great tool to use if you need to do some convincing for the principal. So that's the first thing I would say. And the second thing I would recommend is if your school has a wellness policy or district has a wellness policy, try and get your hands on that and use that as a way to show and to demonstrate to the principal that health and wellness is mandated by the school district, and you are there to really help them see out those health and wellness objectives. So that's the second thing I would recommend. And then finally, if you've struggled to get the principal on board, I would recommend looking at other administrators. I have worked with a number of schools where the assistant principal has been a fantastic resource, even though the principal maybe didn't have the time or the initial support for the project. That will help you get going, and then once you've had some success to share, the principal may at that point come on board. Denise, did you have anything to add?
Yeah, I just want to say that you know, sometimes principals just don't want to have just one more committee to add to all of the other committees at the school. So it would be a matter of, you know, is the principal supporting projects at the school? And if so, maybe that can be done as a subcommittee of the PTA, you know, or you can kind of go about doing the projects a little bit differently. And like I said when I was discussing wellness teams, sometimes a wellness team doesn't have to have a formal name. So if you can just get a group of people together that are interested in doing something, sometimes the principal will be okay with that. So I would just kind of, you know, see where the principal is, and is it that they just don't want another committee, or is it that they don't understand the benefit and will support a project?
Great. Okay. And if we will, as we get more questions in, we also will have time probably at the end to answer a couple of more. And once again, if you would like to ask a question, go ahead and type it into your box. And if we don't get to it throughout the course of the webinar, we will respond via email. So let's move on to assessing your school's wellness environment.
Okay, thank you, Carol. So we'll move on to assessing your school's wellness environment. So as you can see on your screen, as George Bernard Shaw once said, the only man who behaves rationally is my tailor. He takes my measurements anew every time he sees me, while all the rest go on with their old measurements and expect me to fit them. So after you've formed your team, it's a smart idea to conduct an assessment of your school's practices related to student health, so you know where you stand and you know where you need to go. So why do a wellness assessment? Although I admit it can be very tempting to jump right in and start a project, there are many good reasons to start with an assessment. It will enable your team to, first, develop key relationships with staff. So hopefully you've already been doing this, but the assessment provides another reason to communicate and work together. Second, it will help you determine your school's strengths and weaknesses. Third, it will help you define your goals that really suit your school's needs. So hopefully at some point, these goals will go into either the school wellness policy or perhaps even the school improvement plan. Next, it will help you justify your decision to make changes. You'll always have that data to support every decision that you make. And finally, it will help you document starting points in order to show progress over time. This will be very important down the road, as it will enable you to show that your efforts have achieved measurable results and will help to create sustainability for the long term. Also, data is always useful to have for funding requests, especially grants that may ask you if you've done a school wellness assessment. So there are many different types of wellness assessments out there. your first job is to do a little bit of research and figure out which one will work best for your school. Some of these assessments are a little bit longer than others, so make sure you pick the one that works for the time that you have to complete the assessment. So a few of these tools that we recommend are, first, the School Health Index. So this was developed by the CDC and is based on the 8 components of coordinated school health, which we mentioned earlier. This is a very comprehensive tool. Not only will it help you evaluate where your school stands, but it will also guide you through the process of determining your priorities as well as developing specific goals for improving your school health environment. The second tool we recommend is the WellSat tool. This tool is developed by the Rudd Center for Food Policy and Obesity at Yale, and this tool is used to measure the strength of district-level wellness policies, but you could also use it to measure what is or is not being practiced at your own school. The third tool we recommend is the Fuel Up to Play 60 School Wellness Investigation, which was designed for schools using the Fuel Up to Play 60 approach, but could be used by any school to assess their wellness environment regardless of whether they are using Fuel Up to Play 60 or not. This particular assessment encourages students to be involved in completing the evaluation. So this can be an especially useful assessment if you are working with older students. And finally, we recommend the Healthy Schools Program Inventory. This inventory was developed by the Alliance for a Healthier Generation. To use their assessment, you must sign up your school for their 6-step Healthy Schools program, and then your school's results are shared with the Alliance. So we recommend that you investigate each of these tools to decide which assessment would work best for your school. If you're doing your project as part of a grant, you may also be required to fill out an assessment or a pretest as part of your evaluation before starting your project. And what that looks like depends on the granting organization. There's a good chance it might be one of these tools, or it might be something different or slightly overlapping. So all of these assessments address nutrition and school meals, as well as physical education and physical activity. In addition to that, they may also cover health education, competitive foods and beverages, family and community involvement, wellness policy, so the tool may ask if you have a school-level wellness policy, staff wellness initiatives, counseling and psychological services, healthy and safe school environments, as well as health services. And you'll notice the last 3 areas, which are starred, are those specific areas that are covered in the School Health Index, in addition to some of the other ones mentioned. So after you choose your assessment, you'll want to decide how you're going to administer it. Will you do it during a wellness team meeting, or perhaps assign subcommittees to complete different areas? Would you like to involve students? Make sure school staff are involved in the assessment, but be careful not to place the entire burden on them. In most cases, the oversight and management of the assessment should be done by the wellness team and not by the school staff. So in my experience, I have seen wellness teams very effectively divide various aspects of the assessment up amongst each other, and they've had some great success in completing it in a timely manner. And after you complete the assessment, you'll want to discuss the results of the team. What are your school's strengths and what are your weaknesses? And make sure you celebrate the strengths. It can be very easy to overlook these if you see the weaknesses, but see if you can publicize them in the school newsletter, in a letter to parents, or perhaps you can share them at a staff meeting or a school event. Your school community will more readily accept your efforts to address areas of weakness if they feel good about what they have already accomplished. And this also ties back to the principal question we had earlier. This may be a great way to start to bring your principal on board by discussing those strengths. And use those weaker areas, along with the passions of the people on your team, to guide the projects your team would like to tackle first. So in a moment, we'll talk about developing an action plan, which will help you prioritize those areas of weakness. And keep in mind that your team should conduct a wellness assessment, ideally the same one, annually, so you can measure your progress over time. This is a great tool not only for your own school to see where you are, but it can be a great resource to share with granting organizations so you can receive additional funding for your projects. So I understand this process may seem a little bit overwhelming, especially if you've never completed an assessment before, or even if you have, it can be kind of a tedious process. So I'd like to share a success story of a high school PE teacher in Coral Springs, Florida. When PE teacher Celeste Martell came across Fuel Up to Play 60, she saw that doing a school wellness assessment was recommended. So she completed the assessment, and when she saw the results, she was less than thrilled. She was particularly upset by how low the PE scores were. In response, Celeste started planning a field day kickoff event which included tug of war, kickball, and hula hooping. She also started an after-school walking club, and before long, the walking club was also meeting before school. So now, Celeste School has 30 to 50 students and 10 to 12 teachers participating in the walking club every day. And the Fuel Up to Play 60 focus has expanded to include nutrition activities. Celeste recently conducted another wellness assessment and was pleased to see that her school's scores had gone up across the board. At the same time, the assessment showed her areas where there is still room for improvement, and so she is continuing to use that information to guide her current wellness projects. So as you can see, this was a great opportunity for her to build upon her weaknesses, and in the end, it really motivated her to continue going because she was able to visually see that success in the wellness assessment. So here we've included the links to the assessments that we've discussed. And like all of the other links in this webinar, these links will be in the follow-up materials for your reference. So at this time, I will turn it over to Carol to see if we have any questions specifically about assessing your school wellness environment.
So one question is, which of those assessments is the best one? Which one do you recommend the most?
That's a great question. And, you know, I think it really does depend on your school's needs and also the time you have to complete the assessment. All of those assessments provide fantastic information, but some of them are more lengthy than others, and some of them do require that you get additional people to help fill them out. For example, the PE teacher to fill out a particular section or the health teacher to fill out a nutrition education section. So my recommendation would be to put some time into doing some initial research and figure out what is the appropriate length and the appropriate personnel needed to complete it that makes the most sense for your school. Denise, do you have anything to add?
I don't. That's a great answer.
So I have a question, a couple of questions actually have come in back related to wellness teams. In particular, a couple of groups who started teams and then had a lot of interest in the beginning, and then for various reasons, you know, the teams kind of faded over time. Do you have any, you know, suggestions on how to keep a team going strong and how to kind of keep that momentum going, and what to do if, you know, you had 20 people to start with, and then 3 months later you've only got 3 people coming to a meeting?
I can answer that.
Great. Thanks, Denise.
Yeah, and I'll be talking about this a little bit more when we talk about action planning, but it's always a really good idea to plan out what you're going to do and then plan out all of the steps in an action plan. So those steps could include giving people specific tasks. And so if the people really are wanting to do something and maybe are feeling like things are not getting accomplished, that might be one of the reasons why people are leaving and people are not staying motivated. So making sure that you document all of your steps and you plan out everything on your action plan, I think will help to keep people more motivated so that they feel like they're actually contributing and something is being accomplished. So we'll talk about that a little bit more in depth.
Yeah, and I completely agree with Denise. I think the action plan is definitely key. In addition to that, I would recommend maybe with those particular individuals that have left, I would either recommend a personal invitation, so reach out to them again personally and say, you know, we've really missed you adding this skill to our wellness team. We could really use your support. Would you be interested in becoming a little bit more involved on this particular project? Or if there have been several members, perhaps taking a pause and doing something to celebrate the success is a great way to get them back involved. Maybe even it's something like a thank you breakfast or a thank you lunch for the work that they've been able to do, and that way you can kind of reel them back in and get them re-motivated for upcoming projects.
Great. And then I've also had a couple of questions related to school board and administration, district administration level support and funding, and wanting us to address the need for wellness coordinator funding and how that could possibly impact wellness teams, as well as the importance of, and just an idea to maybe go to the school board and the district level first and get support at those levels, how important that could be, because that trickles down then to the school. And I think there's one participant who's had a wellness team formed, and then it was nixed or unsupported by the district, not necessarily just the school, and has had some trouble recovering from damage to the wellness committee's reputation that way. Do you guys have any comments or suggestions related to the interplay between the district and the school board and your school team?
So that's a really tough question to answer. So I'll do my best, but I think that it can be really difficult, especially interacting with the school board and the district while trying to meet the needs of your own school. So at that point, my recommendation, if you're not getting that support from the district, would be to see if you can garner some additional support, maybe with community members, or even really forming a team that's mostly made up of parents, just to provide some manpower to still continue to do initiatives at the school level. I know that districts oftentimes do struggle with implementing wellness policies, so if that does become an issue for you, I think going back to the district with the wellness policy and being very explicit about ways you can specifically implement areas of the wellness policy is also a great way to show them that you are a useful resource for them and that they should reconsider making you a priority at the school level to help implement those mandatory wellness policies. Denise, do you have anything to add to that? Or Carol?
I think, yeah, that's a really tough area, and so I think it is a really good idea to go to the board and try to get funding or see if they will get funding for a wellness coordinator, depending on how large your school district is. And I think that was probably put out there as an idea. I don't have any particular experience going through that myself. So, Carol, do you have anything to add?
I would just say that it is really important, ideally, to work at multiple levels. All of these levels are really key, and you can, without doing it in a confrontational manner, to play the levels off against each other. And, if your principal is supportive, that is probably the key person. But if your district is not supportive but your principal is, then you get parents together, you band with the principal, you band with other schools if you can to try to convince the superintendent and the school board and the district administration that it's a really good thing to have a wellness committee. If it's the principal that's not on board, then you go to the school board and the superintendent and other schools in your area who have done things successfully, and you try to align the different things that they have done with the priorities of your individual principal. So there are just multiple points of contact, and you just have to kind of figure out which ones will help you to get what you need. And absolutely, a wellness coordinator is so helpful to the process because they will be an advocate at all of those levels with you and for you. So that is a fabulous thing to advocate for to your school board to get funding for a wellness coordinator. And there's a lot of different districts fund those in multiple ways, the wellness coordinator role. So you might want to do some exploring if you don't have one, and provide some suggestions and success stories from other districts that have successfully built that position into their structure. Okay, let's move on to action planning.
Great, thanks, Carol. This quote from Nathaniel Brandon really is true. A goal without an action plan is a daydream. And personally, this is exactly how I felt when developing a project at my daughter's school. It just seemed so big at the time, and so this is why creating a plan is so important. There are some people out there who can accomplish their goals without a plan, but it's really not recommended when you're working with a team. So taking the time to think through a plan provides so many benefits. First is team camaraderie. The process of developing an action plan together will make everyone feel more invested. Also, group brainstorming. Each member of your team brings different skills to the table. Your plans will almost certainly be better thought out when everyone creates them together. Also, clear communication. A plan will help everyone to understand the project goals, know what he or she is expected to do, and by when. It helps when delegating specific activities so that one person doesn't feel like they have to do it all themselves. This eliminates confusion and potential conflicts. And an action plan also includes a timeline. It is powerful to have down on paper that you will accomplish a specific task by a specific date. It creates a sense of urgency and keeps everyone going so that the project doesn't stall. So what are the steps in the action planning and implementation process? By this time, you've already completed the first two steps on the screen. And I want to mention that all of the steps that we're going over now are on our action planning template, which you'll find on our Parent Toolkit page at actionforhealthykids.org. So once you've formed your team and completed your assessment, it's time to select a project. Use your assessment results and the passions of the people on your team as a guide. If you haven't already, and make sure to obtain project approval from school administrators. And then it's time to determine your project goals. Laying out your goals is a very important part of the process. Think about why. Why is this project important? Why is there a need for this project? And what is missing or lacking in your school that the project will help to fulfill? Who is your target audience? Is it students, teachers, families, or all of the above? Then think about what behaviors are you hoping to change and what specific impacts do you want to have. We recommend that you put your desired outcomes into the form of SMART goals so that you'll be able to measure them and track your progress more effectively. SMART is an acronym for the steps that you see on the slide. SMART goals are specific rather than general. They tell a team exactly what is expected, why it is important, who's involved, and where it's going to happen. SMART goals are measurable. They answer questions like how much, how many, and how will I know when it is accomplished. SMART goals are realistic and attainable. To be considered meaningful, they can't be out of reach, nor can they be considered to represent performance that is below standard. Choose goals that matter, that are relevant to your school, your community, your students, and your students' performance. SMART goals are also time-bound. They have a target date. A commitment to a deadline helps a team focus their efforts and prevents goals from being overtaken by the day-to-day crises that invariably arise in an organization. They answer questions like when, what specific changes will have occurred at the end of this current school year. So here are some examples of SMART goals and measurable impacts for two different types of school projects. The first is a school garden project. 125 students in grades 2 and 3 will participate in school garden learning activities in their classrooms by the end of the school year. 200 students will taste produce from the school garden by November 15th. And weekly consumption of fruits and vegetables in the cafeteria will increase by 15% by the end of the school year due to nutrition education, which is a part of the project. Now note that all three of these goals are specific, measurable, relevant, and time-bound. The team needs to feel that they are also attainable. For physical activity projects, you'll answer questions like, how many more teachers are using classroom activity breaks? And how many students had how many more minutes of physical activity as a result of the project? So here are two SMART goal examples. 150 students will have 15 more minutes of physical activity each day through classroom activity breaks by March 15th. And 100% of classroom teachers implement activity breaks in their classroom by the end of the school year. Once again, these are specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound. And note that you're collecting data around these impacts for a couple of different purposes. The first is to help your school with strategic planning. What worked and what didn't, and what behaviors changed. And the second is to help promote your successes and lead to program sustainability. Some impact measures will help with the planning purpose, and others will help with the promotion aspect, and some will do both. And after you've defined your goals, the next step is to form an implementation plan. Develop a timeline and assign tasks. Write out action steps and sub-steps, the team member responsible, the start and end dates, and the status or to-do list for each task. Include things like evaluation, project promotion, and communication, because these are all important action steps. And also you will need to develop a budget. Write down all of the potential costs of your project, and these may include things like equipment and supplies, incentives, gifts, and awards, promotion, printing and copying, and then meeting and event costs. Determine items that may be able to be donated or borrowed, and then add up your total project budget and discuss where the funds will come from. So now let's talk about funding. In an ideal world, there would be school and district funds to support your project, and you should spend some time looking into this. Sometimes there are pots of money that go unused, so make sure you ask questions. Find out if your PTO or PTA is able to earmark funds for wellness projects. And look outside of the school. You may have families willing to donate if they're passionate about health. And sometimes you can find community partners willing to donate goods or services. Local grocery stores, parks and rec departments, sporting goods stores, local spas, and even garden centers or hardware stores. And there are also grants out there from many organizations, both local and national. Live Well Colorado keeps an updated list of funding opportunities on their website. They list both local and national opportunities, so it's worth checking out even if you're not in Colorado. The next step is to put the plan into action. Follow the action plan and track progress against project goals. Reflect upon your successes and challenges along the way and record them in your action plan. It is important to communicate successes throughout the course of the project to reinforce key messages, recognize achievements, thank participants, and build future support. And then once your project is completed, make sure that you celebrate your success. So let's discuss some ways that you can do this. You can give updates to the PTO, PTA, or other committees in your school. Be sure to publicly thank those who helped to make your project a success, and ask if these successes can be included in the daily announcements at the school newsletter, handouts that go home to parents, on the school marquee, or the school's Facebook page if it has one. And how about having a school-wide assembly to celebrate and recognize key team members? It's also important to communicate through district channels too. And try to get media attention if you can, perhaps an article in your neighborhood newspaper, or invite a local TV channel out for a special event. And how about starting a social media campaign? Get your parents who are into social media to start talking about your project with their friends. So think about all of the different ways that your school communicates and utilize as many of those resources as makes sense to celebrate your successes. And recognize achievements by describing those measurable impacts. For example, congrats to Joe S., who ran a flat 14er, or announced that 200 pounds of organic apples were eaten at the Halloween party this year. Or thanks to the volunteers, administrators, teachers, and organizations that donated products. People will be more likely to want to be involved next time if they feel that their work is truly appreciated. And your last step is to create sustainability. Look at this quote from one of our expert team members in Texas. A project has more chance of sustainability if it results in a lifestyle change, supported by the school environment and family. Now, this is a good definition of sustainability when it comes to health and wellness projects. We're trying to create lasting lifestyle changes, not one-time projects that might have short-term value but don't have lasting impact. This is important when we consider all of the volunteer time we're putting in and when we're trying to find funding for our projects. Funders don't want to invest in short-term impacts. And as parents, we should be considering our own investment of time and resources in the same way. So we asked 5 health and wellness experts from our teams in Colorado and Texas to talk about sustainability with us because this is such a key part of action planning. It is listed as the final step in our process because it continues on after the project is wrapped up. However, plans of sustainability are very important to incorporate throughout the course of the project and the planning process. So in addition to Patricia Mauser, who's quoted on this slide, we also heard from Leslie Levine and Rainey Wickstrom in Colorado and Michelle Smith and Carrie Dabney in Texas. We asked our experts to tell us what makes a project sustainable and what they look for in terms of sustainability when they are reviewing grant applications. So here I'm going to turn it back over to Heidi so she can share with us what they said.
Great. Thank you, Denise. So community engagement was the #1 key to sustainability mentioned by our school wellness experts. They stated that involving school staff, parents, students, and community members in the planning and implementation of the project was critically important to get their buy-in and ensure a lasting and positive impact. So making community engagement a part of your plan from the beginning, as well as an ongoing basis, is critical for success. This further highlights the importance of having a team to implement your project as opposed to one individual. Specific support from the principal was also mentioned by many of the experts, which of course is something we've been discussing throughout. So try and involve the principal at the highest possible level of commitment. At a minimum, he or she must support the project. Ideally, the principal is an active participant as well, and even a champion of the project, particularly as far as marketing and communication of the project to the community goes. If you write this into your project plan, there's a higher chance that you'll be able to make it happen. So this is something that is critically important, so I encourage you to put some time in the beginning to really focus on getting that principal buy-in. Having a project vision was also a key element. So define your vision and use it to market the project. That will help you get the community buy-in as well as the engagement that we talked about earlier. According to our experts, a project has more chance for sustainability if it is presented as an ongoing program or initiative to improve academic achievement and school success, and if it doesn't need to rely on continuous grant funding. So according to Leslie, whether it becomes part of staff development, such as a physical activity in the classroom development, evaluation criteria for staff performance reviews, or an annual class activity, allocating curriculum-oriented funding increases the chance for sustainability, and it is no longer regarded as a special health and wellness project. So in general, do as much as possible to integrate it into the school's wellness culture. So make sure your initiative is ongoing. Take steps to ensure progress is being linked and incorporated into school policies, future practices, and programs. And try to work to get it written into the district wellness policy, school guidelines, and the school improvement plan. Most schools have a school improvement plan around academic performance and other goals, and these are usually mandated by the state. The school improvement plan can be one of the best places to put school wellness goals as progress is reviewed on a regular basis. And your school's accountability committee or school improvement team is a great place to start. I have worked with a number of schools that have started to write health and wellness objectives into their school improvement plan, and that's what ultimately gets the principal on board, is because it's required by the school to address those objectives. Ongoing initiatives also rely on student buy-in and help to engage students. So use a tested program to frame your wellness efforts, and that way you can get students involved, excited, and even wanting more. So as we've already mentioned, programs like Game On, Fuel Up to Play 60, or Students Taking Charge for high school students are all free, and you can tailor them to your own particular needs. Student engagement in these programs is a key to their success. So we will definitely share with you these links to these programs so you can look at them after the webinar. And finally, you can sign up for a recognition program like the Healthier U.S. Schools Challenge, which we mentioned earlier. Awards and recognition will help to cement your school's wellness identity, which can be used as a marketing tool for your school. And any positive recognition that your school receives is likely to leave your school community wanting even more. Awards and recognition will put your initiatives in a favorable light. And some programs, such as the Healthier U.S. Schools Challenge, even offer a financial incentive if awarded, which can help fund health and wellness programs in future years. So in addition to the Healthier U.S. Schools Challenge, the Alliance for a Healthier Generation has a Healthy Schools Recognition Program, and some states may implement state-level awards. For example, Colorado has the Healthy School Champion Scorecard, and Indiana has the Healthy Hoosier School Award. So these are some additional recognition programs that you can look into. Here's another success story to highlight how useful an action plan can be. So Henry County in Tennessee is a pilot school for coordinated school health. In 2009, the leader of their school wellness council utilized an action plan for Child Health Week. According to the coordinated school health director, Stephanie Winders, the planning chart helped us break down the steps of what we needed to accomplish and by whom. And thanks to their action plan, Henry County accomplished a lot. During Child Health Week, their high school walking club started with 15 students on Monday, and by Friday morning had 50 students participating. In addition, they held a Got Milk contest that was led by students as well as the cafeteria manager. And now all of the schools in the district are using action plans to set their year-long goals. So as you can see, an action plan can be a very useful way to get some really great things done, as well as engage students and other relevant members. So at this time, I'll turn it over to Denise to share her own success story related to developing and implementing her action plan.
Thanks, Heidi. Yeah, one of these success stories is my own story. I was a parent advocate in Colorado over the last 2 school years. And through the Action for Healthy Kids resources and parent leadership training series, I learned how to build support, engage my wellness team, and carry out a school garden project at my daughter's school. We already had the school garden in place, but needed a way to get the garden and curriculum into the classrooms. And since this was a pretty large project, we formed a school garden subcommittee that so that we had the time to focus our meetings on this project. And members of our subcommittee were not necessarily the same members that were on our general health and wellness team. And so this brings up the point that there may be individuals that are willing to help with specific projects, but they may not have the time or want to commit to being on a general committee. And throughout the process, I have to say that the action plan was probably the biggest help to me and the team. We knew what the overall goal was, but we hadn't really thought out how we were going to get there. The action plan helped us break down the steps into smaller tasks for each person on the team. It kept us on track with our timeline and our goals, and we also used it to record our activities to make it easier to replicate. So this year, we are able to look back at what our timeline was and keep to the same schedule for classroom activities, which is one of the ways that we are making it sustainable. And we also used the impact data that we gathered to write an application for and receive a Healthy School Champion Scorecard Award, which is one of the programs in Colorado that Heidi just mentioned.
So you'll find some additional resources through the Parent Toolkit link on our website. You'll find the Wellness Project Action Plan template as well as budget. This link will be shared with you in the follow-up materials. And they are some useful documents just to help you get started. The Wellness Project Action Plan has a very detailed list of things that you can include in your action plan and gives you the flexibility to add what you need to add into it. And the budget is just a nice template to get you started, especially if you haven't worked a lot with writing and developing a budget. So at this time, I will let Carol take any final questions related to action planning, in addition to questions related to the other material that we covered during the webinar.
All right, we have a question about assessment, and it is a team or a team leader who founded a wellness team in her school, was interested in doing an assessment and tried to get the rest of the committee on board, but found that the rest of the committee's eyes were kind of glazing over when she started to talk about conducting a needs assessment and action planning, which we hope that our participants today, that their eyes are not glazing over. We do admit that this all can be, fairly tedious. It's not the most exciting part of projects, running a project, and it's not why a lot of us get involved. But do you guys have any suggestions for how to, make it more interesting, or how to frame it so that your committee doesn't run away when you first mention an assessment or an action plan?
Heidi, I can take this question.
Okay, yeah, Denise, go ahead. You jump in first.
Yeah. My wellness team at my daughter's school was a pretty active team, and so everybody was kind of working on all these different projects. And so, yeah, I think we were too busy as a team to sit down and actually do the assessment. So what I decided to do was just to form my own little subcommittee. It was me and another parent, and then I emailed back and forth with the principal and the PE teacher to help me answer some of the questions. And it took several weeks to get through it, but once we had it all complete, I was able then to take it back to the regular committee and tell them what our results were. So I guess that's one way. If your entire group does not have the time to do that, you can have just a couple of people from that group take that on if they're willing. And then about the action planning, it was kind of the same thing. I didn't want everybody being bogged down with all of the different steps in the action plan, so I kind of did that myself on the side when I was running the meetings, and just making sure that we were talking about all the steps, even though I didn't specifically say we need to put this on our action plan. So we were doing the steps, and it was being done just kind of on the sidelines, and that's how I got it done at my school.
Yeah, and I'll just add one additional thing to that. If you are working with students that are maybe a little bit older, even 5th, 6th, middle schoolers and high schoolers, sometimes you can even get them involved as well, as we've mentioned, with the assessment, and almost have them set it up in an interview format. So encourage students to get involved, have them use the questions, and then interview the appropriate people so that you can get the answers that you need for the assessment. So that's something that, of course, takes a little bit more time, but is a way to engage students, make them feel like they're contributing, and also take the burden off of some of the other adult wellness team members that maybe aren't initially as excited about it. So that would be the additional thing that I would add in addition to what Denise had already mentioned.
And I think that is a really good point, and actually it helps to answer another question that we had about secondary education and how to implement these things most effectively at the secondary level. So definitely getting the older students involved is going to help. And Students Taking Charge, which is Action for Healthy Kids, a program for high school students and middle students really could use it too. It's where they create their own wellness objectives and projects. And I think that there is a wellness investigation as one of the projects, and you can also design your own as a part of that program. So that's a great suggestion, Heidi. And just to also say to follow up and add to what Denise said, if your team just won't do an assessment and you've tried to get them to do one, if they won't create a formal action plan and you don't want to do it on the side as Denise was able to do, don't let that stop you from doing a project, because you want to start and at whatever level you can get in your school, and you don't want your team to disband or walk away for that reason because you're too insistent on something. You just need to come back to it later. Get a couple successes, behind you, and then you can possibly use those successes to convince your team and your school that you can follow kind of a more something that's considered more of a best practice by completing a plan or doing assessment. So just don't let it stop you. These are goals, these are ideals, these are best practices, but if you can't get them accomplished right off the bat, keep going anyway. So Denise and Heidi, do you have anything else you want to add? That's our questions that we have, and if there's anything that we didn't address in those questions so far, we will go ahead and follow up with an email after the webinar. But Heidi and Denise, do you guys need to add anything?
I think that's all. Thank you, Carol.
Great. Well, thanks very much, guys. We very much appreciate your time and your participation today. We will send out the follow-up email in 2 to 3 business days with a link both to the recording and to the handouts and all of the templates that we talked about. It will also include a registration link for the next webinar in our Parent Leadership Series. And if you want to learn more about Action for Healthy Kids and how you can get involved both with our mission and our movement, we encourage you to take the Every Kid Healthy Pledge on our website and really help us create that 100,000 person movement to make all schools healthier places. Taking the pledge takes just 10 seconds, and once you've signed on, we will show you lots of ways, both big ways and small ways, that you can turn your commitment into action. That concludes our webinar today. Thanks very much for your time, and have a great day.